everyone, I'm back and we have a new setup here because I'm officially out of school now, so I'm back at my mom's house in Miami, which isn't very far away from my college, but it's still a new setup, so it's something new. So this is literally one of the most requested videos that I have ever had on this channel, and that is a packing advice video. This packing advice video is going to be geared towards a broader sense of like going on exchange, or I guess you could use it also for going abroad just for a long time. But so I have a few points that I want to touch on, and I have them down on my computer and we're gonna go through them. I also asked my roommate before she left for going back to Italy her take on this, because she's gone on exchange to a colder area and I have not, and I've never lived in a cold area, so I actually needed help for Japan from her anyway, so win-win. Okay, so first thing that I want to talk about is electronics. Electronics is something I think that is very daunting to pack for on exchange, especially when you maybe don't really know the voltage of the area that you're going to be going to. For me, it was very difficult to find this out because for some reason in Thailand, I couldn't find that much information on what kind of voltage they had and if I had to get an adapter or something. As it turned out, all I needed for Thailand was a 3-prong to a 2-prong adapter and making sure that my electronics were dual voltage. So the best way to figure this out, if you're not able to find it directly on the internet, is talking to a person who has traveled to that country before. So what I did is I talked to my road text who had gone to Thailand before me, and actually at the time that I asked her was in Japan. So I was kind of able to get both situations known for the voltage. So I think that that's the best way to do that. Unfortunately though, I think the best thing that you can really do in a situation that you're not very knowledgeable about is just making sure that all of your electronics are dual voltage. Most newer electronics are dual voltage. Like I know that my Mac charger was dual voltage, my iPhone was dual voltage, my camera was dual voltage. Basically everything that is like really necessary. However, my hair dryer and also my hair straightener were not dual voltage, but I didn't really think I needed the straightener in Thailand, so I didn't really bring it. And I also brought a little handheld dual voltage travel hair dryer. Honestly, that is the biggest mistake I think that I did while I was on exchange. I brought a converter for my voltage to have it work in different countries, and this is a good solution, I believe, for maybe like a week or two trip. This is not a good situation for an exchanger or someone who's going to be there past, I'd say, like 2 to 3 weeks, because it blew out my hair dryer and I was like almost scared that I was going to light my room on fire. Happens. So before you start packing, something that was really helpful for me in organization with packing were 2 things I'm going to show you here. This one in particular I think will be very helpful if you're going abroad in a colder climate, and that is these space bags. I'm sure that if you're watching this video you've heard of these before. These are just the ones that you seal on the top and then you roll it up, and then it has like a lot less air in it and it compresses something that can be this big to like this big, and it's amazing. So for me, I use this for like jeans and blouses that were a little bit more puffy, but I don't really think that they were that necessary for me, but they were nice. You just have to be careful about how much weight you put into here because it does compress it. You get the weight in there a lot quicker than what you normally would, and you just have to really be careful about that. So since we're talking about weight already, I'm going to transition into something else, and this is completely optional, but I loved it while I was on exchange, and I still love it because it helps me no matter any time that I'm going to the airport, and that's one of these portable luggage scales. It has a converter from the metric system also to the American system of like pounds versus kilos and all that stuff, and it's just really nice, and it's very small, and I mean, my roommate just used it on her way back because she wasn't really as familiar with the pound system, so it's just kind of like press a switch and you're good. So I brought this. It's very light, so it doesn't take up much room, so I think it's worth it. Another thing that probably all of you guys have heard about if you're watching this video is these like e-bags, space cube things. And for me, they really helped with shorter trips with organization. I don't think that they're really necessary for longer trips, but you can squish a lot of things into here. So it's kind of similar to like the Space roll-up bags. So again, you have to be careful about how much you put in here, but you can fit a lot in here. So if space is more your worry and not so much the weight part, then these would be a really good option for you. I think I got like a pack of 3 of them on Amazon for like $15 on sale one day. So if you find them on sale, I think they're worth it. So one more thing that you need to think about before you start packing is no matter what anyone else says, you are going to buy so many things when you're on exchange. Like, I don't know anyone on exchange who hasn't bought a ton of stuff and had to leave a bunch of stuff back in their host country because they brought too many things beforehand. For me, I came with about a bag and a half full of items, and I came with about half a bag of gifts, and I had to leave probably like an entire bag's worth of clothes over in Thailand just because I bought so many things over there that I liked better, which is counterintuitive because a lot of people think that if you're not super tiny that you're not going to fit into Asian clothing, and that's not true. I was in a small town in the middle of Thailand and I still found things that fit me. So you have to be wary of that. You will find things that you like, and honestly they have more sentimental value than your clothes back home, so you're going to be wanting to leave those clothes back home, and usually you bring the clothes with you on exchange that you like the best, so it kind of sucks that you have to leave all that stuff behind. So just be very particular on what you want to bring and what you might have to keep there. So really like shorten the amount of stuff that you have. Okay, so I'm going to talk about things that aren't really clothes related or any like toiletries. I'm actually probably going to do an entire video about toiletries because I feel like there's a lot of really good toiletries for traveling, especially if you're going to be traveling for short periods of time. But also in general, I think I'm just going to talk about which toiletries you should bring with you and which ones you shouldn't. So if you guys want that to be a video, make sure you put a thumbs up here and comment down below saying that you want me to do that. Okay, so the couple things that I think you should bring that aren't intuitive are, of course, gifts. A lot of exchange people know this already because it's already said in one of your orientations, but just it's a little bit more difficult to think about gifts, especially if you have more than one host family that you don't really know anything about. I still have a really hard time with this, and thankfully I don't have a host family. Well, not thankfully, but thankfully for this situation, I don't have a host family next year, so I don't have to worry about gifts. But in general, what I would say is don't go overboard. I brought way too many gifts last year. I think I brought enough to leave about 20 things behind because I had no clue if I was gonna have young children in my host family. I didn't know if I was gonna have older host siblings. I didn't know if it was going to be a single mom or a single dad, or if I was going to be a nuclear family. So I don't have much advice about gifts. Probably talk to one of your road techs and figure out the culture and what things that they like the best in that certain country that you're going to be going to. For example, I found out that people in Thailand really like Victoria's Secret and Starbucks. So I brought some Starbucks like instant coffee, and that was like such a hit, and I gave it out for like presents for like birthdays and stuff like that, and people just loved it because Starbucks is so expensive in Thailand. Like, I think a small drink is about $10-15. Yeah. And I also got like on sale like perfumes and stuff like that for Victoria's Secret, and it was okay. Like, they definitely liked it, but it definitely wasn't a huge hit. I think in general food is usually a pretty good option. Such an exchange student. Okay, so probably another thing that isn't so intuitive is bringing some photos with you to kind of like set the atmosphere of your new room. For me, I kind of found out really quickly that if I didn't have like an atmosphere that like reminded me of home, I got really homesick really quickly. So what I like to do is I like to bring photos with me and just hang them up on the wall, and then like bring like a few like of those little foldable like paper posters and hang them up on the wall, so it kind of just feels a little bit more like home. Like, for example, I got this poster in Thailand and it reminds me of Thailand, so I brought it back with me, plus K-pop. And also I have like photos over here of like postcards that I brought back from Thailand, so it works both ways. Like, bring things with you back so you can like hang them up on the walls, and it kind of just reminds you of your exchange and stuff like that. Also, the situation of language books, and just books in general. Language books, I think, are probably the one thing that I would spend the most amount of weight on in your luggage, and that's because a lot of times in the country that you're going to, unless you're in a big city, you won't find many books that are in your language that explain the language that you're trying to learn. So for example, I brought over maybe like 2 to 3 language books with me, and honestly I kind of wish I brought more. And definitely on my way back, I brought way more language books because I understood the language enough to kind of like read it and figure it out what it said. And it works pretty well for me. I have this huge stack of language books over there that I paid an extra $150 to bring back with me. And I still think it's worth it. Other than language books though, I would say just maybe get a Kindle and just use that. I'm personally not someone who loves to read on a Kindle, but overall, if you're a traveler, I think it's really the best option is just bringing a Kindle with you and just reading on a Kindle, because honestly, you're not going to have enough room to bring all your hardback books with me. Trust me, I understand. Like, I wanted to bring my huge, like, 3 books in 1 Lord of the Rings edition, and I did, and I regret it so much, and I couldn't leave it behind because it's like my baby. Okay, so now on to toiletries. Toiletries, like I said, I really want to do like a separate video, but I'm just going to touch a little bit on this just in case I get like a negative response on not really wanting to do that. But probably the biggest thing is only bring the toiletries that you absolutely love. For example, I have a lot of Lush products that I really adore, and they're pretty expensive in comparison to a lot of other products out there, especially because I have to try to be wary of having vegan and also cruelty-free products because that's what I do. So for me, I will definitely be bringing like my cleanser and my moisturizer and my toner and my eye cream and stuff like that. But for the most part, if you don't have a lot of dedication to like cruelty-free products, or if you know the language well enough that you can figure that out in the country, don't bring them, because it's just going to take up a lot of weight, and also it's definitely a little bit more difficult to travel with products that are heavier because it's going to take up a lot of room and they're very weirdly shaped. So it's going to be hard for you to find like the perfect spot that fits into your luggage, and a lot of times it's just not worth it. However, something else you have to really consider, and I did not think about this at all, is if, for example, for me, going to an Asian country is very hard for me to find stuff for my hair because it's curly, it's not really anything like Asian hair at all. And it was so difficult for me to find things for my hair that I really wish I'd brought enough to supply my entire year to make sure that my hair was healthy and looked good. I came back with like pretty damaged hair because I kept on just putting product in it to just keep it under control. So it's really up to the individual, but in the end, that's my suggestion. Okay, now the part that everyone has been looking for is clothes. So again, clothes is a very similar mindset to toiletries. Only bring the things that you absolutely adore. And again, like I said, you're gonna buy a lot of stuff over there that you'll probably end up liking more. So make sure it's only like the few couple things that you just absolutely love. Again though, like the hair products for me, there are certain things that I had to bring with me that did not work for my body type in Thailand, and that would be like undergarments. Like obviously certain situations just don't work in certain countries and you have to be aware of that. So this is the part that I asked Maria, my roommate, how she does this, because she's gone on exchange more times than I have because she was a international student in Miami. So I asked her what was her protocol for setting up what she brings and what she doesn't. And what she told me is separate your clothes into definite no's, maybes, and definite yes piles, and be really, really critical about it. And then of course just take out the definite no's, put in the definite yeses, and then look at the maybes, so that way you have a lot less things to worry about and to look at. And I think it's a great idea because I remember looking at my closet and just being really, really, really overwhelmed. And so I'm definitely going to use that strategy when I'm packing for my next study abroad. Can you not? Okay, so another thing that Maria told me was that she never brings statement pieces with her. She only brings like basic clothing, and I completely agree with this. For me, what I brought was just like a couple regular t-shirts, a couple jeans, a couple leggings, a couple tank tops, and that was about it. And so she also said don't bring statement pieces because fashion really, really varies from country to country. And for example, her coming from Italy, like it was much, much, much different than having the fashion here in America. So another thing that you have to worry about, and I think this is probably more of a girl's thing than it is a guy's thing, and that would be shoes. For me, shoes was one of the most difficult things for me to pack for, and I've already mentioned that in one of my videos. I think it was like an exchange student problems, like way, 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 way back. I think that was like 2 years ago now. I don't have many shoes. I think I have about like 10 pairs of shoes, and narrowing my 10 pairs of shoes down to 3 or 4 was so difficult for me. It was so difficult because I didn't really know what shoes would go best in Thailand and what shoes would go best like for traveling around in Thailand. I can't say much about other countries obviously, but for Thailand, probably the best thing to do is bring shoes that are easy to take on and off, because you have to take your shoes on and off all the time. So for me, what I usually go with now is probably like a 3 to 4 rule on shoes. And by the way, this is only for if you're going to be going there for a long time. Probably 1 is sneakers for traveling, so, or any other kind of traveling shoe that you just really, really love. But if you're going to be there for a full entire year, most likely you're going to be going on like either like hikes or you're going to be exercising, and it's just probably a good idea to just bring a pair of sneakers with you. Then also a pair of dressier slash like dress up shoes. And for me, that was a pair of high heels. Then a pair of like relaxing shoes that are just like comfy to wear around. So like that would probably be like Birkenstocks or something similar that's just very comfy and can kind of go with almost anything. And then for me, since I'm a Floridian, of course a pair of flip-flops. But those hardly like take up any space anyway. Of course, you're not going to want to bring flip-flops with you if you're going on exchange to a colder climate. But for me in Thailand, flip-flops was like totally okay. And then the last thing would be if you were traveling to a colder climate. Again, I don't know hardly anything about this, so I asked my roommate again on this, and she told me to bring about 2 to 3 sweaters and 1 winter jacket. And that would really be enough unless you're going to a really, 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 really cold climate. Then most likely just buy that there, because especially for someone like me who's from Florida, I don't have a really heavy duty winter coat. So for me, I'm just gonna bring like a jacket and 3 sweaters. I do have a lot of sweaters because I love cold weather, so I just buy them even though I don't need them from thrift stores. And then those are the things that you put in the space bags that roll up and like compression them down, so that way it doesn't take that much space up, and they're not really heavy anyway, so it doesn't really like work against you in that area. And I think that's about it, everyone. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and again, put a comment down below if you want me to do like a traveling like cosmetics and toiletries video, because I actually have a lot to say about that. So I think that it could be an entire video of its own, especially because this is probably a really long video already, so I probably don't want to go past the usual long limit that I have. So yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!